Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us, or good morning, depending on where you're at. I appreciate you guys spending some time with us on what we think is a very important topic for practices. Before we get started, a few logistics. Everyone, most, like any webinar, everybody's coming in muted to keep the noise down. We will take questions. So down in your Zoom panel, you should find a question area where you can ask questions. We'll either take them along the way or we'll definitely do a Q&A session at the end. We are recording this. So, if you get interrupted or disturbed, or when you get you'll get a link to the recording if you want to forward it on. If it's you think it'd be helpful to somebody else in the practice, feel free to do that. So we'll do, and as I said, I mentioned, we'll do Q&A at the end. So, our topic today is around the concept of collecting, what you deserve for the excellent patient care that you're all providing to your patients. There are a lot of pieces to that puzzle, a lot of components, and we'll dig into a number of them today. But let's start with an introduction to our panels. Let's start with Dr. Davis, Dr. Viktoria Davis, practicing OD, owns her own practice, and is an expert on this topic of revenue cycle management. So, Dr. Davis, do you mind giving a little bit of background on you, your practice, and maybe why this is a passion of yours?
Sure. So, thanks, Paul. Thank you for inviting me, and it's always a pleasure to work with you and Cindy as well. So, thank you very much for that. So, as Paul said, I am Dr. Victoria Davis. I own my own practice, single doctor practice in Madelia, Minnesota, which is about 2 hours southwest of Minneapolis, St. Paul. Small practice, small town, but very busy practice, and it's something which I've built from the ground up by myself, really. I have staff members now who help me, which I couldn't deal without them, obviously. And one of the things which especially uh, with any solo doctor cold start, which my cold start was 26 years ago, but
Not
you start
cold anymore. It's not cold anymore.
out you start out doing everything by yourself. And then it gets to be a point where you can't do everything by yourself anymore. And then you get people to do things for you and help you out with things. And I was in an interesting situation where I thought that we had everything figured out, and thought that we had things working well with me and with my staff. And then I was approached by OneSpot, and they knew my background in billing and coding, which I've kind of become passionate about, is correct billing and coding. And they said, "Hey, can you take a look at this for us?" And I said, "Well, okay, I don't think it would really help very much, but sure, I'll take a look." And I did. And after utilizing OneSpot for only about a month, I and my insurance billing person said, "Oh my God, this is the most amazing thing ever on the planet, and I can't believe that we existed without it." So after I gave that feedback, then they said, "That's really awesome." And so I've been one of the practices that's been using OneSpot even since it was in the beta stages.
Great. Thank you. Next is Cindy Braden, VP of Sales at OneSpot. Cindy, how about a background on yourself, and maybe a couple of words on OneSpot? I'm sure OneSpot is new to a lot of people, so maybe set some context on how OneSpot fits into all this.
Sure. So, Victoria, this is going to freak me out a little bit because I've known you for such a long time, but I have been in the optometry space for 26 years as well. But I was only in the Chicago area when I started out, and I've always been on the sales side. So we almost have which makes sense because I know we're just about the same age. But I have always been on the sales side, most recently on the software side of the business. And I've run sales and marketing teams, which means I have extra passion for billing specialists and the revenue in the practice, because that's pretty much the companies that I have been at. That's been the area that, I've been charged with making sure runs smoothly. So I feel like I have, a kindred spirit for the billing side of the business. Everybody really wants to do the best for their customers and the best for their patients. But if people don't get paid, it is not a successful practice, and you can't buy new technology, you can't take better care of the patients, and you certainly can't take care of your staff. So I get passionate about helping the billing team. OneSpot we launched, gosh, about a year and a half ago. Dr. Davis was one of the first practices we called because she kind of undersold her billing and coding expertise. She's a bit of a guru in it, and she consults other practices on it. And so when we were looking to get some input from a practice, she was obviously one of the very first that we reached out to. And the webinar is not going to be focused on OneSpot. It's going to be focused on all steps in the revenue cycle and ways to enhance the process. And hopefully, if you are either a provider or somebody that's doing the revenue cycle, you're going to find lots of great tips. But we are going to cover some of the things that OneSpot does have, and it is software that was built for billing specialists in a practice, which is why somebody like Dr. Davis was one of the first ones we reached out to, because they do their own billing in-house, and it's their responsibility to make sure that nothing slips through the cracks, which is the goal of a big part of what OneSpot does.
And basically, I think to put things in a really short and abbreviated form, OneSpot is an information management system that really helps a practice to manage all of the information that goes into revenue cycle management, which leads to, we have some interaction here in our webinar as well, because we can't see you, so we don't know if you're sleeping or not. So we're going to find out. Hopefully not yet. So we have a poll here, and it is, what is revenue cycle management? So you can go ahead and just type in your answer there, and short answer, and we'll see where we're at.
All right, and as you guys answer that question and give us a sense of what you think our revenue cycle management is, let me do a little bit overview of kind of what we're going to try and cover today. And it's going to be a little bit more topical than, as Cindy said, than OneSpot specific. But the revenue cycle management topic, this whole concept of getting paid, for the services you provide. Is got a lot of components in the practice that impact that and that affect that, and realistically more components or pieces than we have time to cover today. So we'll do some of them, if you will, right? And we're going to start with, kind of contextually what is what is it you need as an owner or an office manager? What do you need to know about that environment? What are the pieces? And maybe a better way to say what you need to know is what your biller wants you to know. What are the things that impact him or her, and what are the challenges they face and why, and things like that. And so we're going to kind of bubble up the biller environment, if you will, to kind of give some insight on that. We'll spend a bunch of time on that middle bullet, hitting in more detail some of the components and pieces that affect revenue cycle management and affect your ability to properly collect revenue. We'll dig into those, and then we'll wrap it up with some discussion with Cindy and Dr. Davis about metrics. What metrics can you use to assess how you're doing, and what metrics can you use to keep an eye on things along the way. So that's where we're headed today. Let's see what everyone put in here for RCM definitions. Can you guys see that? Oh, view details.
Oh, we could just see that people answered, Paul.
Oh, here we go. How's that? Can you guys see that? Oh, can you not see that?
We can't see the answers.
Oh, it looks pretty cool on my screen. Why can't I? Hang on a second. All right, we'll skip that though. I'll read some of them. How about
That'd be
that?
great.
Perfect.
So some of the comments are all aspects of payments for services, insurance billing, process healthcare providers use to manage a patient's financial journey from the first appointment to the final payment, making sure the practice gets paid from start to finish. It's managing and tracking billing, keeping track of AR, getting the practice paid in capital letters, cycle from beginning to the revenue cycle. So those are some of them. Cindy, Dr. Davis, how did the team do?
Well, I really like the one about the whole patient journey from the
Mm.
beginning of the appointment through the final payment. The only thing that I would add to that is that it actually starts before the appointment. But
Yeah, I thought everybody did pretty good. And hopefully, a big reason why we're here is to make sure. I've had a couple of people give me examples lately of we're always adding additional streams in optometry and the care that is being delivered to the patient, which is awesome. But if you're not getting paid what you have already, I was talking to a friend the other day and she said it's kind of a leaky boat. Put more in the boat, but little bits are leaking out. So the concept of paying attention to the journey and getting paid for what you have so that anything you do add to the practice, you're capturing as much of it as possible. We have a lot of quotes in here. One of the things that I want to highlight as we go through this is there's a lot of industry resources out there that says how important this is. I think we all know how important it is, but typically in optometry, there's so many fires going on everywhere that sometimes it's hard to make it a priority. Everybody is multitasking and doing different things. So we're going to share a lot of quotes, a lot of different resources. If you wanted to check out any of these articles, most of them have awesome tips as well. And a lot of them are where we're pulling some of this information from. But revenue cycle management, this is the definition we got from Unlocking Success in Optometry RCM. In optometry involves the process of tracking, managing, and optimizing the financial aspects of the practice from the moment a patient schedules an appointment to the collection of payments. But as Dr. Davis pointed out, it is actually before that. So I'm going to really quickly run through the first bullet, and then we're going to look at some of the efficiencies, and Dr. Davis is going to kick us off on the eligibility and verification, fun topic. But I feel like as somebody who's always been, a champion for the people that I'm working with, I will break down from the hundreds of conversations that I've had with billing specialists in the last year and a half, what my best to what they would need you to know. Hopefully, if you are somebody that works on billing in the practice, you're nodding. You can type in comments for everybody else to see if you want to say yep on anything that I'm covering. So the world of a biller, if you haven't had a chance to work on the insurance side of getting a practice paid, consists of tons of disparate systems, right? Vision payers, medical payers, clearinghouse, the practice management, and the EHR. Sometimes that's one software, sometimes that's two software. There's a lot of commercial settings where there's a practice point of sale system that's involved as well that you're pulling things from. So there's all of these different software places to go. And most of them might speak to one or the other, but they don't all speak to each other. And then you add into that 35 to 75 different payers per practice as well. And they all have different rules. You might have an exam for the exam, same type of exam, the same type of care delivered, and it has to be coded and billed differently from one payer to the other, right? So the billing specialists are having to keep track of all of that as well. And then to get that information, they have different portals for the different payers. They have usernames and passwords. If you're doing it right, you're not supposed to use the same username and password for the different portals for security reason. And then each of those payers have different timely filing deadlines. Also additional things that the billing specialist either has in their head or they're trying to keep track of. So then you imagine a patient comes in for their appointment and the journey of the claim starts, and each claim, hundreds of claims, depending on the size of your practice, thousands of claims, is on its own journey. Some of them get filed and paid. Great, that's what you want to see. Some of them get rejected. They need to be corrected. Some of them, for some reason, disappear and don't show up in the portal, even though you submitted it. And then there's appeals, there's pending approvals, all of these things. So the biller is tracking all of this as well as trying to make sure all of the claims get from filed to paid. I have not spoken to one single biller that is in a practice. Some of the outsourced ones are a little more protected, but I haven't spoken to any biller in a practice that isn't at some point wearing multiple hats. Even if they're a full-time biller, they fill in for the front desk when somebody goes to lunch, or if they used to be an optician, they're filling in, or maybe they're the only one that knows how to run the OCT when the other person is out. So they're trying to do all of this while they're wearing multiple hats, and they just don't have help software wise or externally to prioritize all of this. I'm going to go quickly through these. These are just a couple of screenshots. So here's an example of pretend practice and just a list of claims. So if you were the billing specialist, how would you approach these claims? They're aged claims. You can see the date over here. They haven't been paid. Claims should be paid somewhere between 2 weeks and 28 days. So these claims have gone askew. Something's wrong with the journey. And you can filter this by payer and date of service. And that's about it. So how would a
We
biller?
need to clarify, this is from a practice management solution, right?
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
not
yes,
from
yes.
a-
This is Revolution EHR. They all pretty much work the same. We've seen them all, and that's the idea of how the biller is trying to approach this, right? And then when they're looking at that, they're also thinking about those timely filing deadlines. This is just an example of a practice that we were working with and the payers that they have. And their timely filing deadlines. So when you're looking at that list and you think, okay, my Humana claims, I have 90 days to take care of, but my Medicare claims, I have 12 months to take care of. So this is another filter of things that they're keeping track of.
One other thing that I wanted to
Yes,
jump in with as far as the wearing multiple hats is although the biller very, very frequently wears multiple hats in the practice, almost always, that billing specialist tends to be a position that only one person in the practice really knows how to do. So
yeah,
if that one person is out, if they, are on vacation for a week, or if they, have surgery and they're out for 6 weeks, or if they go on maternity leave, or they have other things that happen, things can really fall apart in the practice if that particular patient, that particular employee is gone, because that position is one that is typically not well filled by other
it's
people in the practice.
It is a tough job. They help everyone, and very often there's a lot of people that can help them. So, just another quote talking about how important it is to help support the billing specialist and how tough it is to keep up with all of those things from payer rules, reimbursement rates, and then the different claim protocols on submitting them. So that's what I just want to take a little bit on the what you need to know and hopefully what billing specialists would like you to know, because right now they're all pretty much managing that themselves with Excel spreadsheets, their notes, their tasks, and that sort of thing. So we're going to dig in now to the second item on the agenda, which is the billing team efficiencies. This is a great image that we found online from the time the patient makes an appointment. The insurance is verified. The exam is coded. If you look on the left, we highlighted, we can't cover absolutely everything. We really highlighted the main things that we're going to speak to. We're not going to talk about exam coding because that's probably weeks and weeks of expertise and specialization. We're really going to focus on the journey and some of the efficiencies that can provide submitting a clean claim, then posting those payments, and then chasing the AR, and then following the reporting and metrics to see how things are going. All right, so we're going to start with the patient scheduling the appointment and then the eligibility and verification.
So we have another little poll here. So how do you do insurance eligibility and verification in your practice? You can pick one of these, either an employee in the practice, an offsite employee or contractor, an outsourced company, or you don't pull eligibility and verification. Sometimes this can be something you may have more than one in your practice if you do one thing for vision discount plans and one thing for medical insurance or whatever. Just pick the one that you most commonly use in your practice. These are kind of the four most common sort of things. So shouldn't take too much time to vote on this. So, all right, Paul, can you show the results here?
Yeah, a couple of final ones coming in here.
Okay,
Let's see. Hopefully this works
there
better
we
than the
go.
last one. Can you see that?
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So,
Success.
and this is really kind of what we expect to see, and what we have found is pretty typical for most practices. Is most practices are trying to handle this all in-house. They have an employee who is doing this in-house, and again, this is where we get that thing that those employees very, very frequently wear multiple hats within the practice because they're another warm body. And we all know that sometimes we need warm bodies in our practice to do different stuff for us. So this billing person or insurance eligibility and verification person does tend to get pulled in to do other things as well. This is one of the most critical parts of anything dealing with insurance is that you get the right information. It's a matter of bad data in equals bad data out. It's kind of like if you're using an autorefractor and your autorefractor gives you completely bogus information. That's not going to help you very much, and you're not going to get great data from that. And so that's the same thing that's true with the insurance eligibility and verification as well. It's vitally important to get accurate data from the beginning and get legal names, verify birth dates, all insurance information, images of your cards. Many practices like to get the back of the card as well. In my practice, we pretty much always just get the front of the card unless it's something that's really weird, because we already know what the back of the card says. So that kind of depends a little bit on your practice and how many companies you're dealing with, but sometimes it is nice. But we figure if we can train our patients to be able to take an accurate picture of the front of the card, then we're doing
A
awesome.
good start. Yeah, I have people telling me all the time, patients are notorious for providing the wrong information about themselves.
Absolutely.
You would think that they would be great at knowing their own information, but getting the photo of that card at least puts that to bed. And you know what name is on the card, their legal name or the name they go by. Yeah.
And that's always the very best thing to do to be able to verify the accuracy of the information is to just get a photo of the card. Fortunately, with technology these days, those photos are pretty easy things to do because most people know how to use a camera on their cell phone, and either text or upload that image is something they're pretty familiar with. So eligibility and verification is something that does take dedicated staff and staff time. As I say, it is vitally important that this be done well and done properly, because if it's not, you're not going to have good results from it. There are different options for outsourcing as well. There certainly are practices that find that that's more useful or more cost effective for their system, their practices particular way of doing things. We just listed a couple of options here. There's definitely others as well. RevCycle Partners certainly does insurance eligibility and verification as well. Scrubs RMS is a company that does also all sorts of insurance eligibility, all sorts of insurance processing, as well as training in EMRs. Independent contractors, there's plenty of them out there that they have learned that they do a really good job of doing this insurance stuff. And so most of them work remotely to be able to do that for other practices as well. Cindy, do you want to address the software?
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly, we added a couple of software platforms here as well. Anagram, I know, does the vision stuff, and I think they're adding the medical side sometime this fall. Affinity, Aloha, and then probably the most reliable is, if you have accurate patient information, is going to the insurance portals and gathering that in advance of the patient coming in, right? Just in case you have something wrong, you have a chance to get back to the patient and share their benefit information so that when they come in, there's no issues and there's no risk. But that takes a lot of time. So the one thing that, I know Victoria said a number of times, and she's a provider, so she knows, but I'm going to hammer it in too, because I hear this all the time when I'm talking to billing specialists. It is so much harder to fix things on the back end if you don't have it up front. And with everybody doing different things in the office, it's important from the top down to make sure that everybody understands that we know how important it is to get the eligibility and verification up front correct, that it is a part of the job. It's just not when you can get to it, because that's how you're going to have the most success in getting paid.
Before we do the poll,
Yeah.
I guess we can do the poll. You can, is that a free answer? Oh, it's a question. You can read, but I'm going to talk just a little bit about insurance portals, because back when I started in the dark ages, this thing called the internet was something that was pretty new, and we had to get on the phone and call insurance companies to find out about things. These days, when you call an insurance company about eligibility and verification, the agent on the other end of the phone literally uses the same portal that you are. So there is no benefit whatsoever to calling an insurance company to check on eligibility, because if you have credentials to the portal, they literally are looking at exactly the same information. Going to an insurance portal is going to be a lot faster than waiting for an agent on the phone. So that is something that I very highly recommend. So the poll question here, the difference between a claim denial and a claim rejection. This is something which, you know, is a little bit of semantics, but
Yeah,
it's also
people use them
really
interchangeably sometimes.
Yep.
We have a unanimous result.
Oh,
right.
good job. We got just one.
Excellent.
Well, the question is, are they right?
Right. Yes, they are right. Sorry, I had to read the answers there. So yes. Yes, people are correct. So woohoo, yay, gold star for you guys. So and it isn't necessarily just that they won't. Yeah, I guess that is, yeah. Sorry, semantics on what the denial is, that
Yeah.
they refuse to cover the patient.
Maybe let's get your definition of the two.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. So yes, a claim denial is the claim is processed but not paid. So it doesn't necessarily mean that they won't, like they reject the patient. It's that they actually process the claim, but they say that they will not pay the claim for one reason or another. A claim rejection is when the claim is not processed for some reason. So they can't even look
Didn't
at
even get there.
this. They're returning it to you and saying, kind of the claim rejection is an incomplete. The claim denial is a fail. If you're thinking in terms of
Great. Yeah.
That's a good way to put it.
So we have another poll here. What percentage of your practice's claims do not get paid the first time? This is both denials and rejections at this point. And it is perfectly okay to pick number 5 there, or bullet number E, whatever. I don't know, because a lot of times that is absolutely the correct response. Honesty gets you places. All right.
Okay, here's the results.
Interesting. Lines up so interesting with some data that we're going to share. Hopefully everybody knows why this is an important question. I was talking to a practice Monday, and they work in one practice. They work in 2 practices, and the practice that they are in most of the time, they have a rate of 50% of the claims that don't get paid the first time never get managed. It's a large practice, and they kind of hedge their what to spend their time on. And they were saying they have 50% of those claims that don't get paid the first time, that get caught in AR, get written off at some point without getting chased. So obviously it's very important, if they're not going to get chased, if they don't get paid the first time, to try to make sure as many get paid as possible. I'm going to show, sorry. So there's not a ton of data specifically to optometry practices out there. So we ran a poll earlier this year. I don't know if anybody that's attending today participated in the poll, but we wanted to ask questions specifically to eye care practices. There's a ton of healthcare systems and other medical practice data on revenue cycle management, but not really anybody that's paying a ton of attention to optometry specifically. So we asked the question. I went, oh, when I saw the results, because they almost line up with what you guys said and what was done in our poll that we did earlier this year. This was 148 practices, I think, sending in their responses, and you'll see about half of them say less than 10%, and the other half is higher than 10%. A decent amount, 20 to 30% and above. So if you can imagine, if you think about, if they don't get paid the first time, they get rejected or they get denied, somebody has to go chase that, right? So that's kind of the area that we're going to look at now, because, you have to know which claims don't get paid the first time, and then to figure out, of those claims, how many of them never get paid, right? Because that's just money that you're missing. That's that leaky boat that we were talking about. So Victoria, do you have anything to add on the poll?
Nope.
Before we run to the next one? Okay, I'll jump to the next one. Claim scrubbing.
All right, so what is claim scrubbing? My favorite one, bleaching out the paper claim in order to change it.
I love your answers on these.
Proactively reviewing and correcting potential claim errors before submission, eliminating evidence of claim tampering, or adjusting claims to maximize reimbursements.
We got Smarties on here. I bet they're
Yeah,
all
yeah.
gonna.
I think there's a few people pulling your
And if you
leg.
get it wrong, I'm not saying you're not a smarty, by the way. We got a smart guy.
Oh, I bet I looked at who the participants were, and I think I might know who that one
You did that?
participant is. So
That's awesome. You guys got it right. All right, making improvements on claims processing can optimize the practice revenue cycle management. So this is just another article that says, again, anything you can do early on in the process makes it easier to make sure that you're getting paid in the end. So as Dr. Davis said, like these, if it gets rejected, it means it never even made it to the insurance company. We don't know if we have accurate, eligibility and verification because the payer never even got to take a look at it. Usually these get flagged in the clearinghouse if you're using a clearinghouse. There's just one more quote here. I'm not going to read through it. I'm mostly sharing these in case you guys want to grab any of these articles and you want to do a ton of additional reading on this fun topic. They are here as well. So the point is making sure somewhere in the office somebody is tracking all of the different rules that all of the different payers have for all of the different types of patients you could be seeing, and making sure that everything is entered correctly on that claim and not missing data, as Victoria said, to make sure that it doesn't get rejected. So I went to my team of experts on the other side of my company, OneSpot. The other side of our company is RevCycle Partners. So I went to some of our billing experts. I have a really unique advantage of seeing practices that are getting OneSpot brought into the software and the implementation. We have a scrubber, so it's nice because I can see the consistency, I guess, in some of the things that get rejected. So I just want to cover a couple of tips here that will be helpful, hopefully. Somebody should be scrubbing your claims. That's the first thing, right? You want to make sure that there are options for somebody scrubbing them. And then if there's anything that you can do to supplement the manual scrubbing. So if a claim doesn't have everything that it needs in the right place, it's not even going to make it to the payer, right? That's the very first thing that's going to kick it to accounts receivable. So try to make sure somebody is at least looking at them to make sure that they're clean, as we say, or scrubbed. And if there's anything that you can do to supplement that, clearinghouse have scrubbers. The problem with the clearinghouse scrubber is it's after you've already submitted it, so it still gets kicked back to you, but it can catch things. But something that I did not realize before I started working with practices implementing OneSpot, because we track things that get rejected, is there are a lot of things that are getting rejected on claims. And I mean, these are practices that have been billing with practice management systems for 5, 10, 15 years, that things are getting rejected on a claim. And there is a place in the administration area of that practice management software where you could fill it out and it automatically fills out on claims, right? Victoria, you might be able to explain this a little better if I'm not explaining it, but the idea would be very often when you're setting up your practice management software, you got to fill out all these things, do all of these things, right? And you're like, do you want this? Do you want this? Do you want this? Well, sometimes you're like, I don't know, right? And you may not have checked off an area that says add referring provider on all of my claims, because at the time it's just not, a biller may not be setting up your software, right? Many of the claims with for different payers don't require the referring provider number, but a lot of them do, right? So if you default that it shows up on there, the ones that don't need it, they don't reject it if it's there, but the ones that do need it, it is there. There's another one that one of my billing experts mentioned, accept assignment. That's another thing that we know in at least 4 of the main practice management systems. It's a default that you can set in the practice management so that it automatically fills out on the claim. Many practices that we work with, these billers are scrubbing the claims and they're adding it manually every time. And then some of the payers require a CLIA number. It's another thing that I know many of the software platforms allow you to fill that out in the practice management admin area, and it just defaults to the claim, and it's not something that they have to manually do just for the payers that need it. So I think what I would suggest is somebody scrubbing these claims, you don't notice them necessarily when you're opening one at a time. So maybe tally the things that you're seeing, try to figure out a way that you're tracking. Because if there's something that's consistently missing, maybe there's a way to add it in your practice management software so that somebody doesn't have to manually scrub it and clean it and fix it every single time. Victoria, is there anything to add on that?
I was just going to say that continuing my analogy with school, where I said that rejected claims are denied claims are a fail, and rejected claims are an incomplete. Claim scrubbing is kind of like having a proofreader.
Yeah.
So, you can submit things without proofreading it first, but it's probably a bad idea. And almost all the time, that proofreader is going to make things better. But having a better proofreader is going to make more of a difference in your final submission than having a not very good proofreader. So,
Hey, Cindy, given the topic and OneSpot, would you mind doing like a 2-minute little demo on the OneSpot, or at least show the OneSpot scrubber so people kind
That
of get
might
the
help with
concept there?
so I'm going to talk a little bit here while Cindy's pulling.
Thank you. Give me a second.
Yep, exactly. With my experience with OneSpot claim scrubbing, because I did all my own claim scrubbing for years and years and years, and honestly, I thought I was really good at it. And I got most things. And in fact, a lot of people don't know that your clearinghouse frequently keeps track of how many claims, what percentage of claims you have that pass their scrubbing. And we use TriZetto Gateway. And they sent me a little sticker, which I was looking for here at one point,
Oh
that I was
boy.
part of the 99 Club, which meant 99% clean claims for 3 months in a row. And, I was really proud of that. So I was really good at claim scrubbing. And then when I started using OneSpot, I was asked to not manually scrub my claims and just let OneSpot do it and correct the ones that needed correction, but not to manually scrub them first, or just run it through OneSpot claim scrubber and see what happens. And I was shocked when I got yet another 99 Club sticker from Gateway TriZetto. The what I think fourth, fifth, and sixth month that I was using OneSpot claim scrubber, because it's that good. And I didn't have to look through all the claims myself anymore. And so now, and people who know me know how much I hate to give up control.
How
I
hard
was,
it was to
I was
let
gonna,
that
How
go. Yeah,
hard
we
it
had
was
to
to
twist
do
our
this.
arm.
And
I was gonna ask you, how hard was it not to scrub all those claims
it,
yourself?
um, Julie Beecher made me promise. And so I don't break my promises to Julie. So there you go. But
Yeah.
um,
So the efficiency here will make this. That's so awesome, Victoria. And we did have to twist her arm quite a bit. I'm the same way. So pot, kettle. So here's the claim scrubber in OneSpot. It scrubbed 29 claims. 14 of them are clean and ready to submit, right? That's one of the huge efficiencies. If you're able to use a claim scrubber, is that somebody now they don't have to open those claims and take a look at them, right? Your billing specialist probably would be able to do, maybe not quite as good as Victoria, but probably be able to do this. But somebody's got to open every claim. I mean, I don't know how fast you could be to beat this. These 12 need review, and then the software will identify, if I click on one of those claims, it'll actually let you know what the error is, as well as how to remedy with the specifics. Again, a billing specialist probably knows this, right? If you've got somebody good in your office, and there's a lot of really great billing specialists out there, but they're going to have to, I dare open the HICFA to show, I know I said quick, but they're going to have to open this claim and take a look at it and say, okay, who is the payer? What did we bill? What could be missing? Do I need a modifier for this particular claim, for this, or for this payer for this particular service, and figure it out? I'm going to close that. So I'm back, versus coming in here and say, oh, this one got flagged. Oh, there's that rendering provider one. I guess it's not as expected. So, but this again is something that you can default on the PMS. So that's the idea with using a claim scrubber, is you get these rectified and submitted, really cut down on those rejections, and then hopefully be part of the 99% club. I was going to show one other thing, because I mentioned how on the kickoff calls, we were able to quickly identify some of the things that could be fixed in the PMS. There is reporting here. So this is where I watched these practices that were using, OfficeMate for 10 years, and they're like, I didn't know that we were getting that flagged that much when I'm opening one claim at a time. So there's just lots of little shortcuts that you can do to, all right, let's do, oh no, I don't know how to go back to this. Did I do it? Oh, yes, I did. Okay. Do you guys see the presenter
We
side?
do.
Yeah, we do.
There you
There
go.
Okay.
All right. So one of the big things, that I've really found a benefit for in having, particularly OneSpot is that time savings. You can actually run that claim scrubber in the background while you're doing other things, and it'll just pop up a little thing that says, your claims have been scrubbed. And you're like, it's like a dishwasher. How about that? Instead of doing your dishes by hand, it's like sticking them in the dishwasher and you just press go.
I need that little lawnmower automated thing. That's what I need. I keep seeing those everywhere. They have them at the airports, just mowing the lawns. All right, aged claims. So you do everything that you can do, and you hopefully get your less claims denied because you're doing a good job with your verification and eligibility. So you know the benefits they're eligible for. You provide the care that they come in for. Hopefully you have less claims rejected because you're using different tools to scrub the claims, or you're at least dedicating a person in the office to scrub those claims to make sure that they've got all the information. But sometimes still things hit aging. And this is where I was saying, if it's not paid up front, it goes into that long list in their practice management system. And then somebody has to realize, okay, this is more than 30 days old. I've got to figure out why it didn't get paid yet. Because in a perfect world, or not a perfect world, but in a right world, things get paid from 14 to 28 days. So these are just some very different data. One is specific to eye care. One is just medical management, and basically saying that the average claim denial rate is 5 to 10%. And then if a claim is denied, this is a high stat. I feel like I said, I just talked to a practice on Monday that said 50% of their denied claims are not reworked, but this one says 65%. Even if it's 10% or 20%, that's money that's, slipping through the cracks that you're not getting paid.
I will put a little caveat in here that we don't know when they're using the word denial there.
Oh
They
yeah.
probably actually mean not paid,
Yes. Yeah. Rejected, denied, the whole bucket. Yeah. Yeah.
not paid. So, what percentage of your claims are aged over 60 days? We have a poll here again. So,
Got 15 minutes left. I'm going to try to talk less. I just get passionate about this. Make sure we get through so we can get to questions.
we're good there. All right. How are we doing on our results there, Paul?
You're creeping in and get quite as many as last time, but we'll use it.
Uh-oh, that means people fell asleep. All right. So we've got kind of a spread there, which is pretty typical actually.
Yeah.
It is very unusual actually if you only have 0 to 10%. That means things are trucking along pretty well in your practice, which I mean that's a great thing, but there's a lot of practices that would really love that. So, do we have any stats on this or yes?
Yeah, so this was another one that we added to the poll that we did of the 148 practices, and you guys are pretty close. So this is making me feel pretty good about that poll that we did too. We will get that published and shared with people just so that you can see what's going on. There's a ton of questions in it, but just to see what's going on. So less than 10%, about 30%, another 30%, about 10 to 20. And then 15%, 20 to 30, and so on. So
what's also interesting with those aged claims, which, again, this is digging into data a little bit, but what percentage of those people that think that it's under 10% are practice owners who really don't know? That's just what they think that it is. So
yeah, it's a good point. Well, because if you look at that and the percent that gets denied, there's a higher percent. There's 50% get denied, but only 10% or 30% say that they have claims that are aged. So it's probably not quite. So tips on aged claims. This is something that, again, I talk to a lot of billing specialists, and It is not ideal to do this in the practice management systems just because it organizes by date of service and payer. I'm also on the Facebook group for billers and coders. So I see the advice they're giving each other, right? You want to try to get your notes logged. You're working the claim or you're chasing the claim, right? It didn't get paid. So you need to get those notes logged somewhere. You can log them in the PMS system, but they do go into the notes of the claim. So it's an additional screen. Most specialists will print the claims and write their notes. I don't know that that's particularly great for HIPAA because then they've got patient information on their desks, spreadsheets, post-it notes to remind them to check on things, notebooks. One of the things that I would really recommend, I've sat in on a couple, I've been fortunate enough that I got invited to some billing and coding courses because I really like to try to be helpful when I'm talking to people. And I know having some sort of a binder where you can keep all of the information, as Dr. Davis mentioned earlier, a lot of times nobody can help the biller, right? So if everything's not in the biller's head and they're somewhere else, it gives other people a chance to access that information so that they can help the biller. I will say, as somebody who sells software, I would really recommend that the notebook be like a computer, like in a SharePoint or something. I know, Victoria, you have different things that you save on files that the staff has access to research, to get tools and tips and stuff like that. So I would really recommend computerized notes versus something that's printed because it's really hard to keep it updated. And then we obviously recommend the AR manager of OneSpot as well. Victoria, do you have other thoughts on aging, maybe how you were managing it before you had OneSpot?
There's a lot of sending messages back and forth between people and trying to look at things in individual claims and things. It's the OneSpot AR manager has probably been one of the areas that we've really streamlined things the most, utilizing that.
How are we doing on time? Should I, you know what, I'm going to show real quick what we mean by that. Can you guys see when I switch
Yep.
to OneSpot? Okay. So I'm just going to show quick. I'm going to go to the aging manager and just give an idea of taking that knowledge, like we were talking about timely filing, which claims have been worked, which claims have not been worked. This is an example in OneSpot where instead of just all of the claims by age, you have these additional buckets that you can sort by. So we could do a sort by timely filing and then by payer. So we can say, you know, as a billing specialist is super busy, if they just don't have a ton of time today, they're like, is there anything that's about to slip through the cracks this week? Timely filing means it expands past that time that you're not supposed to be able to research it and resubmit it with the payer. I think there's some appeals options you can do, but if you can avoid going past timely filing, that's ideal. So we can see in this less than 6 days, we have about $1,000 that could slip past timely filing, which ultimately might need to be written off. We could open the claim. We could see nobody's actually worked on this claim. It says last worked never. So this would be a priority. If I was a billing specialist, this is probably where I would start on my Monday morning. We can see claims that are due in the next 2 weeks, same thing, and then claims that are due this month. So it just by timely filing. Last worked is another thing. This is so funny because I've told billers that have a lot of people touching claims, like Victoria just said, like passing notes or messaging back and forth, where they'll say, oh, I was so excited for last worked because I could see the claims, you know, like let's open up Cigna. I could see all my claims that nobody's touched and I'm not stepping on them. And then I would see somebody who had been using OneSpot for like 6 months and she's like, I thought I would need everybody else's notes. I can't remember my own notes. She's like, I'm so happy that now I can see my own notes because once you make that note and close the claim, you log in a week later, you cannot remember what you did. So it just organizes things in a way. I'm going to pull up worked 30 to 60 days ago and show you. So now if I open this up, I can see here are my claims that were last worked 30 to 60 days ago. Here's when they were worked. If I hover, I can see the notes that were made on the claim. I could open it and see additional details if I wanted to work it and I needed the username and the login information. I have everything here. So the idea is instead of just having one long list, prioritize what needs to be done. Find the claims that are about to expire, find the ones that have never been worked, find the ones that were worked 30 days ago. Because if it was worked 30 days ago and it's still not paid, something went wrong again, or it wasn't corrected. So, all right, I'm gonna pop back to the.
So, hey, Cindy, as you guys transition into the last section on
Yep.
reporting and metrics, I'll remind everybody we'll do a quick Q&A at the end. So if you got any questions you want to send in, now would be a good time.
Perfect. I'm going to do this pretty quick because I found an article that I think is outstanding on this, and I'm going to share that article with you guys. But here's the idea. Once you've gotten things shored up or you've put those efficiencies in, you've gotten support for your billing specialist, how do you know the impact that it's made, right? So there's 3 different articles that I'm quoting down here at the bottom. It's pretty consistent on the benchmarks that are recommended in healthcare and optometry. These are the things that you're going to want to check, right? Clean claim rate. As Dr. Davis said in her 99% club, you want to have 95% of your claims going through and getting submitted and not rejected. You want to check those claims every 30 days. If you look at the very bottom bullet here, claims are paid or closed 19 to 33 days. So if something is sitting out for 30 days, something has probably gone wrong. If you touch that claim or review that claim 60 days later, it's still not paid, still needs to be looked at. And then the aging totals, I think Victoria mentioned them a little bit earlier when we were talking about in your AR and what percentage of your claims get denied. Less than 60 days, you basically want to have 80% of your claims there, right? These numbers vary a little bit based on the source, but it's pretty consistent with the main idea of less than 80% or 80% or more less than 60 days. Over that 60 days, you want it to be less than 20%. And then your days to close. If it's taking you a really long time to close certain payers or all of your payers, that means things are getting rejected and denied and they're not getting paid the first time. And there's probably somebody in your office spending a lot of time doing that. I'm gonna share the link if get your camera phones up so or you could just Google this if you want, but I'm going to share this link. This is a great article in ophthalmology management that shows how to generate these reports. If you don't have access to them in your practice management system, which you probably don't, there's manual ways to generate your aging information, your net collection ratio, which I think is another really important metric. I didn't see that as much. I know on one of my podcasts when I was talking to Terry from Pekka, she really said you should know your net collection ratio. So these are just the ways to calculate it and then an example of what it could look like if you want to track it. And then here's the link to that article. If you don't have access to that stuff in your practice management system and you want to take a look at that article, when I was reading article after article, I thought that was kind of the best one that showed not only the calculations, but how to generate those. And then I'm not going to spend a ton of time, but I will tell you we do have those metrics in OneSpot. So I'm not going to show them, but I'm going to tell a little story about a friend of mine. I'm going to start the story of Victoria, if it's okay, who I asked last spring of last year if they would try OneSpot software. And so you'll see a screenshot there. August is the green, September is the orange, and blue is October. So that's the 90 to 60 day bucket of aging, the 91 to 120 and the 120 plus. So you can see the aging is going down from August to October in each of those buckets. And that's a funny picture because that was a picture on a phone that I got texted. And it was Dr. Davis that texted me and said, look at my aging. And as you can see, she did not have a lot in aging. They were already really crushing it. And then we took another picture from, then this would be February, March, April, earlier this year. And where she had 12,000 in aging. She now has less than $800 in her aging. Victoria, so anyway, I just thought this was fun because this was real life text message that I got like 10 o'clock at night once when Victoria was working her aging and she got to see the results. Anything you want to add there, Victoria? I have
Yeah, I mean, we had the situation where, I mentioned the concept of your billing person being out for a while. Our billing person had done all sorts of different things, and she wasn't able to work on our billing for several months, and so things really kind of got out of hand. And then that 6 months when we were able to turn things around really just by utilizing OneSpot and their method of compiling data and helping us to manage all of it.
Yeah, I will say, you were doing a great job. I know you had so much going on in your practice, but typically when we get these imported, we're starting with hundreds of $1,000s in aging because it's a lot for billers to keep track of, and they're all saying, don't look at my aging right away. We're like, listen, we're gonna get it cleaned up. So yeah, so you were already kind of crushing
So
it. But
Cindy,
yeah.
Dr. Davis, we are running up against the time wall. So if there are a few questions, so I'm going to throw one last poll up for anyone that
Oh yeah.
wants to get information about OneSpot. If you answered here, we'll reach out to you appropriately. But a couple quick questions.
Yes.
Here's one. Let me just read it. During scrubbing, I make sure that all code CPT were added to the invoice fee slip, especially if the doc forgot to add G2211 or FBR or epilation. Is there a way the scrubbing in OneSpot catches these?
So this is not actually a claim scrubbing issue. This is actually a coding issue. So even though it maybe feels like it's claim scrubbing, it's not really. What scrubbing is actually just looking at the information that's on the claim and making sure that that information is clean and correct. What you're talking about here is actually putting, actually doing the coding portion of it, and that's something which they can't. OneSpot doesn't do that because it doesn't actually look at the exam information.
Yeah, we just have the claim itself. Yeah.
So I'm going to combine a couple of questions here for time. One question is, does OneSpot replace Trizetto? And another question that you guys maybe can tie into that is, so we would export a file out to OneSpot and then into our claim system after scrubbing. So maybe talk a little bit about how all the big pieces fit together between the PMS clearinghouse and OneSpot.
Do you want me to talk about that a little bit, Cindy?
Let me go first because you use Reb specifically, and it's a little different with Reb. So it is not going to replace your clearinghouse. It really is to help support the billing specialist and replace the manual stuff like the post-it notes, hopefully not printing the claims, the Excel spreadsheets, and a binder. Everything is in one spot, so it replaces the manual. So you will still use your your clearinghouse. Some of the systems we have a direct integration with where overnight, which Dr. Davis has with Revolution EHR, it actually pulls all of your claims, your new claims from today. It updates if you did an EOB and claims were paid and removed from aging, they remove from one spot. So it happens overnight. And then if you make notes in one spot to track things, they will push back to Revolution EHR. That is not the case with all of the practice management systems. Claim scrubbing, it will import right before you're ready to submit them to the clearinghouse. And that's pretty much the same with all of them. So Victoria, do you want to speak a little bit how you use the scrubber when you pull those claims in?
So yeah, I mean, what we do is we usually submit our claims once a week. That's just the way that we work things. And when it's that time to submit the claims, it is just a import from, in my case, Revolution, but the practice management system that I just tell them, okay, these are my pending claims. These are the ready to submit claims. So go look at those. And it does. And then it pulls up that list of claims that need fixing or whatever. And then it's a matter of looking at those claims and changing those claims or amending those, fixing the things in your PMS before you submit it to the clearinghouse. So it isn't necessarily like you're uploading things from OneSpot back to the PMS. It's more just that you're taking the information that OneSpot is giving you and then applying that to your PMS before you submit it to the clearinghouse.
I will add, I'm going to give a shout out for my billing specialist. If you can make sure they have 2 monitors so that when they're working on something and they have to go to the insurance portal, they have access to the portal and the screen and they're not trying to flip back and forth. Same thing with Claim Scrubber. They can have one spot with their scrubbed claims here. They can have their PMS on the other monitor. They fix them and then they just submit them right from the PMS.
And you do have an interface with CompuLink to some degree where they can, yeah.
Yep. So one of the questions was specifically about whether OneSpot interfaces with CompuLink. It does. And if you have questions about specific PMSs, obviously you can reach out to Cindy and learn about the support. There's another OneSpot question, and I think we'll just take that one offline. It's if I'm interpreting it, it's for a independent billing contractor that's billing for multiple practices.
Sure.
And so the question is how does pricing work there? We'll have Cindy reach out to you directly on that one. And I'll close with one last one, not a OneSpot question. The question is, I'm new to this topic. What does a clearinghouse do, and do I need to sign up for one?
I'm going to let Victoria take that one as the billing
Right.
guru.
Yeah. So what a clearinghouse does is it is kind of like the repository for all of your insurance claims. So you send, especially when you're doing things electronically, you electronically send the information to the clearinghouse, and then the clearinghouse actually disperses it to all of the insurance companies. Do you have to have one? No, because many insurances also have portals where you can submit them manually, but I really don't recommend that because you literally have to key in every single bit of information manually. So clearinghouses save you a lot of time.
Yeah,
And yeah,
from the rev cycle side, when we talk to practices that don't have a clearinghouse, that's kind of the first thing we recommend, because they can make tremendous efficiency gains by that, and it's well worth it. So that's all
I
the
talked to
questions.
I talked to a practice about OneSpot the other day that didn't have a clearinghouse, and I said, try the clearinghouse. I would love to sell you OneSpot, but do the clearinghouse first, because I think it'll give you a lot of efficiencies, and then maybe OneSpot.
So that's all the questions. I want to thank everybody for attending. Dr. Davis, thanks for sitting in with us. Cindy, final comments from either of you?
No, I want to thank Dr. Davis for doing this with me. I mean, we twisted her arm to be a beta, then we twisted her arm to do the claim scrubber, and then she loved it. And I've seen her give billing and coding advice, so I know how valuable your time is and the consulting and stuff that you do. So thanks for helping us focus a little bit on shoring up the efficiencies here with. And then anybody who wants to talk about OneSpot, I'd love to do that too.
yes, no, and I I'm not actually like paid to do this. I really believe in the value of this, and I am a huge person for increasing efficiency, and that really is what I've seen OneSpot do. So it's a great program. So thanks.
Good. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate you spending time with us.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everybody. Thanks, Paul. Paul, I think you do have to close the poll for it to.
Oh, got it. Done.
Yeah, just so you know.
Yep. Okay. Got it. Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.